Good afternoon. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. I think I'm making some headway again. Well, I keep coughing and coughing and coughing, but I'm taking viewers' advice. If many of you have suggested things, so I'm getting things that you suggest. Somebody had mentioned taking, it would be the equivalent to 5 of my vitamin D's, and so which is a lot in a day, but my pain doctor also said to do that, so I'm doing that. I'd wanted to double check what all he thought, so he brought that up, and I said that's exactly what a viewer had recommended. And he also mentioned quinine, so I'm taking quinine. That's what's in, helps with COVID, if you have COVID. And he takes it when he starts feeling bad, just to help ward off COVID. It's that hydroxychloroquine or something like that. So it's the same thing as quinine. So I got that from Amazon. And another viewer, LS, mentioned, is it NAC? Something like that. I'll let you know later exactly the initials. And I got that's coming tonight from Amazon. So I'm trying to make progress, and so it's all I can do. But the coughing's exhausting, and I'm still very sick. I woke up just sick feeling, and weak, very weak. So in bed for the most part. Take the dogs out, just out the front door. They're being very good. And I made it to the pain doctor's. I did a little video there, but I didn't post it. I forgot to post it. But before he did the pump procedure. But I ended up driving myself because the young man, he was very concerned for his grandmother, and he didn't want to get it. Ironically, I got it from him initially, but he's long since. He thought he was better. He'd been sick for a couple of weeks, but he thought he was better, and he came and helped me a day. And then the next day he said he was feeling worse again, but we weren't close together. We weren't inside. It was that day we were inside in the stairwell for probably 3 or 4 hours, maybe. 3 out, not 4, probably 3, working, getting some tile up. At the most 3, I don't know, honestly. That was back, I think, December 20th. We only got 4 or 5 houses. I said, stop. And I said, I can make it. You get out and get home. He lives with his grandmother, and she is trying to get to Texas next week. Her son is flying in. If he can make it, I'm sure he will in the end, but it's very hard. He's very, very sick with COPD, bedridden for the most part with it. So, of course, she needs to see him and be with him. She's 87, and otherwise very feisty and tiny little Irish woman, and very strong-willed and hale and hearty, but tiny. So, but I don't want her getting sick. I don't want him getting sick. But I made it. Well, I didn't. I ran out of gas. Not totally. I mean, I knew it was going to be momentarily. I hadn't noticed. And I couldn't remember the last time I had driven. But then I did. It was when I was finishing up the head hole project, for which I got paid. I'm so grateful for that money. But the last time I drove to do that, I was going downhill quickly. And I remember that. I remember I got home that night, and the next morning I had relapsed. That's been at least 3 weeks ago, maybe more. So, a good 3 weeks ago. So that started this downscale of this worse stuff that I've had. And I didn't remember. So I stopped at a gas station. I was on a busy street. But it wasn't bad because of the heavy snow. See, that's how I thought I could make it. Everyone was crawling along. We'd had a huge snowstorm. And I wouldn't have even attempted driving had it been normal traffic and speed, because I that would have been very dangerous for others for me to be driving. And as it was, I coughed all the way there and coughed all the way home. But I stopped at a gas station and I went in. I was so weak, it was hard to even get into the gas station. I was using that cane and had masks on, and I just said, I need help, because I had to get the pump refilled. That was going to be bad if I didn't get there to get it filled. I don't know what they would have done. So I started to cry. I was just so done. And the man, he got his own wallet out. The JD, his little tag said JD, put money in the till, $10, and said, it's on me, and don't worry about it. Of course, I'll repay him. I just have to get well enough to get to the bank. But I will. So, and the doctor, he was starting to get sick with something. He wasn't bad, but, he takes all this stuff. So I thought maybe he would inject me with something, but my vitamin B12's good. So he said that was what he had to inject. But he told me to take this quinine, to snuff, Betadine. What did he say here? You guys might be interested, because he was an anesthesiologist. This one's a sharp doctor. He said, oh yeah, take 50,000 units of high-dose vitamin D. He said, while I'm sick, take that. So I've started, and that's what, was it? I'm trying to think of the name of the man who wrote, said what he takes. And I've been taking everything that he said, and I'm taking this 50,000 now of the vitamin D. Quinine. And he said that there's a Walmart brand. It's called Highland's Leg Cramps. What it is quinine. But Amazon sold it. I said, I can't go. He said, you can't. He's, too weak. You're too weak to even get into Walmart. I said, oh, yeah. I just got to pray to get home, drive home, and get in the house is it. So I got this from Amazon, this Highland's Leg Cramps. It's pure quinine, 2 or 3 tablets under the tongue. I'm going to do that like 3 times a day. Plus, he said, take 50 whatever of zinc. 50, I don't think it's IUs, MCs, whatever it is, with zinc pills. And he says that have quality zinc. And then sniff Betadine. Snuff it up and let it run down the throat. 1 teaspoon of Betadine with 3 ounces of water. And he even came up with what I could put in the nebulizer, food grade peroxide recipe. He said I'd find it online. So, and to gargle with Listerine, he says is good. So, just more tips for what ails us, of things that we maybe have around. I happen to have some Betadine, but it's very, very old, but I guess it's still okay. I think it lasts for however long. So that's the health situation. And I do think, other than the weakness, but I think my voice is better. I've coughed and coughed a lot out. So I'm also taking lots of supplements that I usually take. And I'm drinking hot ginger water and still taking my this Coke Zero. But I remembered the hospice nurse telling my mother, with her, she had pulmonary fibrosis, had never smoked, but they feel she was exposed as a child and it was latent till she was 84 and a half. But he said, drink Coke or drink coffee. It helps open the lungs. And I know a COPD person who drinks Coke to help get the lungs opened up. Must be the caffeine, or I don't know what it is in it. And same with coffee. But I can't have coffee because it inhibits iron absorption, and I have very low iron. My blood doesn't produce platelets right, so my body isn't absorbing or retaining iron. That's been since at least a year since I had those tests done. So, doing the best we can here. And my neighbor was concerned about my weight, but she's always been. And I checked and I'm within weight range. I'm not even at the lowest. So I'm thin. My legs are skinny, like ostrich or something, and I've lost weight. The pain doctor said, you've lost weight. And I said, well, yeah, obviously. But I don't know how much. I don't have scales. But I let the neighbor know that I'm in the range, in the lower part, but not at the end, not at the bottom, and not to worry about it. I'm not that thin. I've had people, I think sometimes people get bothered if they're a little heavier or they think they're heavy. I assured her she's not heavy. But I've had this in life. But I was heavier through until my arachnoiditis. The pain eats, I tell you, it eats calories. If I could sell this pain, well, now they have all these medicines people take to easily lose weight. But before, I could have been very wealthy selling pain because you don't gain weight if you have severe pain. You just don't. It's energy. Pain is energy, and it needs to be fed, I guess. And then you don't have appetite when you have bad pain. So, okay, John the Baptist, martyr for the truth. Saint Cyprian, who was he was in the 200s, bishop and martyr. He wrote this, Exhortation to Martyrdom. And it's about John the Baptist. And I thought it's very good because Father Vincent emailed. And he wasn't happy that he says, you need to, it doesn't matter if the doctor isn't good or isn't helping. You still need to go. You need to, that's not good enough. You've got to do something. He says, I'm concerned. And I wrote back and I said, but I said, my life is eternal. I'm not concerned. I don't want to feel this sick. I've never been this sick. But I cannot give business to a duffer. He's had now over 7 weeks. He had 7 weeks and rejected my ideas. I'd call and tell the nurse, that this has worked before, way back when I needed a Medrol dose pack. Would have cut this thing off sooner, I'm pretty sure. But it just kept going and going. he was resistant. Oh no, tell her she'll be better in a couple days. I heard that at least 3 times when I would call. And so, no, we don't just keep, why? Why keep calling someone who does nothing? Well, he wanted me to come in. I was too sick to go in then. Because he gets paid if you come in. He doesn't get paid for calling in a prescription, or I don't know, not much probably. Maybe they charge if they call in a prescription. Maybe they charge extra, probably charge Medicare, all kinds of stuff. And my pain doctor himself said, he says, well, what? He says, GP? I said, yes, and he likes old people because they're easier. He thinks they're easier. I had him pegged by the second time I met him. And nice man, but duffer. And my pain doctor said, a lot of them is just a racket. He says it's a racket what they do. And not interested. My pain doctor had handled all my GP stuff up until last year when I found this guy. I kept trying to find GPs, but the good ones are gone. High population influx here. And then also, I think a lot of them are coasting because they know they're in demand. And people are desperate. They'll accept bad care. So, no. My life is eternal. I'm not giving someone business who's a duffer. That's unconscionable. And I'll try this other doctor on, I think it's February 19th. Hopefully I'll be better by then. And because I don't want to, I wouldn't drive, if it hadn't been for that snow and no traffic, barely traffic, people crawling along, I wouldn't have even attempted it. But I knew I had to. And I wasn't going to have the young man all worrying and uncomfortable. I pick up on, I think we all do, but people tell me that I pick up on things and I'm always right on. And Dr. H has said that. Uncanny, he said, ability to read people. So, no, I wasn't going to have him worrying, or then I would be blamed or whatever. So, but I did. It was the right thing to do. And when I realized his grandmother, how vulnerable, no, not worth the risk. He could have gone in and he was going to take a shower and change clothes immediately, but just being in the truck with me. But I'm glad, because all the coughing I did, and it was the right thing to do. I made it. God had me make it. And the young man wouldn't have told me, because my truck reads at eighth of tank. I found out the hard way is when it's empty. It'll register eighth of a tank. And so when I got back, he says, oh, but you had, I said, no. I said, I got caught on an interstate moving here with it at an eighth of a tank, and that's its empty spot. So I said any moment it was going to go, because it was barely at an eighth. So he wouldn't have mentioned it because he thought there was enough, see. So it was for the best. All things are for the best. And God provided. And we do have to remember that life is eternal. So not to panic. And this is just lasting longer. I've knocked on enough doctor doors. And, Yeah, I think I should have been in the hospital 10 days ago when I went in. But they didn't see pneumonia, so that was their only criteria. So, but I'm glad I wasn't. I'm a hermit, and God's letting me experience what hermits experienced. Except I have a wonderful neighbor, and the young man, he shoveled the drive and got the truck shoveled out so we could go. So that was a huge help, huge. All right, John the Baptist, martyr for the truth. The sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory to come that will be revealed in us. It's Romans 8:18. Who then does not labor in every way to arrive at such a glory as to become a friend of God, as to rejoice at once with Christ, as to receive the divine rewards after earthly torments and punishments? If it is glorious for the soldiers of this world to return to their fatherland, triumphant after vanquishing the enemy, how much better and greater is the glory for one who, after overcoming the devil, returns triumphant to heaven, and after laying him low, who had formerly deceived us, brings back the trophies of victory there whence Adam the sinner had been ejected, to offer the Lord the most acceptable gift of an uncorrupted faith, an unshaken virtue of the mind, an illustrious praise of devotion, to become co-heir of Christ, to be made equal to the angels, to rejoice with the patriarchs, with the apostles, with the prophets, in the possession of the heavenly kingdom. What persecution can conquer these thoughts? What torments can overcome them? The lands are shut off in persecutions. Heaven is open. How great a dignity and how great a security it is to go forth hence happy, to go forth glorious in the midst of difficulties and affliction, for a moment to shut the eyes with which men and the world are seen, to open them immediately, that God and Christ may be seen. If persecution should come upon such a soldier of God, virtue made ready for battle will not be able to be overcome him. Or if the summons should come beforehand, the faith which was prepared for martyrdom will not be without its reward. In persecution, God crowns loyal military service. In peace, purity of conscience is crowned. So we keep going, and we do the right thing. Yesterday, it was all, I didn't even think in advance, other than, we'd not run, there's nobody out in the subdivision. But it was the right thing for me to drive. And if it had gotten too rough, or I, couldn't do it, I could have pulled over, even called 911. I think probably some deputy would have driven me to the pain doctors. Or, well, Uber. I could have called an Uber. But I have to admit that I hesitated. I didn't want the Uber person to be subjected, because that's their livelihood. And my neighbor, young man, is hale and hearty, and he doesn't have a job. So I was going to pay him what I would have an Uber, but I try to think through the least damage or the least harm to others in such a situation, but reminded of his grandmother and my knowing a few days before that she's going to, try to get to see her son, the very ill son. Although for 2 years she's kept thinking that he's not, at the end. But I happen to know that COPD people, it's a horrible suffering, but it can go on and on for a long time of suffering, which is very sad. But we're soldiers. We're soldiers, and John the Baptist knew that, and we know it. Even in such as this is a minor suffering in comparison. In the full spectrum of life, this is mediocre. And so it's just worse than what I've had of this kind of thing, and longer. But there's far, far worse. And that's what gripped me the other day, was realizing, that this is just a little foretaste of, what suffering comes to us and can go on for months or even a couple of years or more before we die. And even longer than a couple of years. It can be years and years of, it's amazing how the human body keeps going in terrible sufferings. And I think of the different martyrs. We know about many of them from the first century, second century, and how they would, be killed, as if killed, but it wouldn't kill them. They would stay alive, and then they would finally try some other means to kill them, cut their heads off or something. When arrows didn't kill them, or at other times, in more recent times, when they'd be shot and they wouldn't die. So the human body is amazing in what we can endure, and best not to panic, and always keep in mind how much worse it could be, and how much worse other people have it, and what they endure, and that we endure all for the love of God, and for the furtherance of Christianity, for the furtherance of the faith, and to learn what we need to learn. I saw a headline and read just the first paragraph or so of some news this morning of the president of Rwanda. And because the aid, it was found that U.S. aid, this office in the government, had 10,000 employees being paid, and it was filled with fraud. Even what they were being paid was fraudulent. They weren't doing their work. And what they were doing of the work was ridiculous, wasteful. Not for food, not for housing, not for medical help. For ridiculous silliness. So it's been cut down to 294 workers. And take it from there. But so Rwanda's president made a statement that he was impressed with the program being cut. And he made this announcement to his country that we'll learn something from this, that he admired the American president for being firm and for stopping the fraud. of this United Aid Association. And this Rwandan president said, we can learn. We'll learn from this. Well, of course, I'm praying, we'll all pray that the aid will be restored, but to the people and for the causes that are needful, for food and medicines and housing for people in these other countries. Of course, we want to help people, but it needs to be honest. And that's within our own lives, that we keep ourselves right, true, and just, honest, loving and caring, and trying to always pray to do the right thing. So, John the Baptist, what St. Cyprian wrote 1900 years ago, 1800 years ago, being a martyr for the truth. And to keep in mind Romans 8:18, the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory to come that will be revealed in us. And I liked all the way through this down to the very end of in persecution, God crowns loyal military service. In peace, purity of conscience is crowned. Oh, but that was good. God bless his real presence in us. And I want to next talk about what I found to be very honorable in a sport. Another sport example that happened. I might do that today or maybe tomorrow. But it's another reminder of how we live does matter. How we live and how we portray ourselves and project ourselves out there in the world and among others, in doing the right thing, and remembering humility, that we are, but we are eternal beings, but to stay humble and do what's best, especially for the ordinary people, the little people, the regular people, not the hoo-hoos, who tend to get what they want and what they need by hook or crook. They do. But the good that we can do for other people, just regular, everyday people, is amazing what all we can offer others of ourselves, and always offering it to God too. So, talk to you another time. Get this turned off if I can. Hope the glasses didn't bother you guys. Okay, here we can get it turned